Well, you're also the same guy that was bragging about you solving the email, whatever issues, and you're like, I'm Sean, the IT guy now.
I'm the IT guy. Don't tell me what notes I can play. I figured it out.
Yeah, so I was assuming you could figure out the default settings of a mic and speakers.
Sure, I'll figure it out. It's going to take me. The thing is, it's going to take me 3 hours. And is that a good allocation of my time? Or is this something that falls below the line that someone else much younger and more savvy with these things could be doing? Brandon, what say you?
I say your boys who are under the age of 10 could both figure that out. And you should delegate to them.
Quite sure Massimo could figure that out and reconstruct some other stuff. There'd be Legos involved in the solution. But he
probably, as there should be.
He can figure it out.
Let's do this thing.
Let's do this thing.
Welcome back to The Ether, the show that disrupts the way you think about running your business. Join me, Brandon, and my co-host, Sean Delaney, the creator of What If, on today's episode. Our goal is to provide context around what we talk about so you have the clarity to cut through the noise and the confidence to grow and run a truly harmonious business. Let's jump in and take the next step to achieving business freedom.
Clarity to cut through the noise. That sounds awesome.
Doesn't that sound awesome? Check this out. I never tell you these things until the moment we get on the show. Do you know what the title of today's episode is? I know you have access to it. It's on your screen.
Oh, it's going to be like...
You're going to hate it and love it all the same. Are there monsters at the gate waiting to destroy your business?
No, I love that. I love everything about it.
It sounds a little scary, right?
I would have said dragons.
You know, I was going to go with dragons because we did promise the people in the last episode, we're talking about moats and castles and armies and knights.
We use that.
I went with monsters, though. I messed up.
Always, we have a spirit of continuous improvement here, Brandon. So
we do.
Quite all right. We'll get it next time.
We do. But what are we talking about? Monsters in business doesn't sound appropriate. We did have an episode on Monsters Inc., though, but that's not what this is. What lay the foundation of what we're talking about today?
We are talking about the 10th and final, not the least important, but the 10th and final element of, or discipline, I should say, of the harmonious business architecture. It is RAD, risk and defense. And what this is solving that pernicious feeling that we are being hunted by things, because we are. As soon as you build this beautiful kingdom that you were laying out here, your business, wolves are coming. The bigger and more beautiful the prize that you have built, trust me, your competition is looking at you. Governments are looking at you. Eyeballs are looking at you. And you now feel this need. So this is that one of those fears of the 4 buckets of fears that are out there. One of them is I have fears of external things. So that bucket includes your competition's coming after you. Marketplace dynamics might change. There are things that could shift. They're out of your control. Legal ramifications, insurance requirements, regulatory compliance requirements. These are things that you cannot control, but are hunting you 24/7 and are activating your fight or flight mechanisms and making you feel anxious in your business. This is something that can really wear you down over time if you don't know how to solve for it. And I don't want you, much as Brandon was advising me earlier, he wasn't, but much as Brandon was advising me to fix all my own IT things by doing all the research, I don't want you solving for many of these things because you're not an expert in it. I know you're not an expert in it because you're not an expert in it. You shouldn't be an expert in it. These are... So I'll take it one step further. I'm a lawyer. I don't lead with that. Brandon, we don't talk about that a lot because we don't want to, because I want people to grow to hate me, not hate me right off the bat. So I am a recovering lawyer. I try not to practice, but even I don't want to deal with the legal stuff because I'm too close to what we're doing here. I'd rather outsource it and then be able to kick the tires on it later. So even I am not trying to say, let me handle all of our legal stuff. So I don't want you doing it. I don't want you doing all the research, spending 111 hours trying to figure out what kind of insurance you need to keep yourself safe when there are people who do that for a living and they could be good partners for you. And so let's talk about this more. So we have 3 things. Are we good, Brandon? I know you have a hard stop. I'm trying to lay the context here. Is this good? Let me talk about what the
we have 3 things, and then we have 5 questions to unpack. So yeah,
so when we talk about risk and defense, we say that we call this the moat, the marsh, and the might. And so there are ways to keep your business safe. So the first thing is, and this really ties back to your strategic planning, is let me put my business in an inhospitable place. Let me put the castle in a marsh. Because who wants to get to it? Let's make it hard for the encroaching army. So this would be, hey, there are elements of our business that you would have to be a lawyer to have some kind of credibility. So good luck. If you want to compete on that part of the stage, you can't compete with us unless you have that. We've made that a difficult conversation. If you're looking at for 2 coaches and advisors, who do you trust on these certain topics? We're the ones. How about that we've been in business, we've been doing this for 30 years. How about the fact that we've been doing it at the highest of levels with the Fortune 100 all the way down to solopreneurs? We've covered all the space. If you are entering our space and you want to go toe-to-toe with your offer versus ours, we are making it an inhospitable ground for you to compete. So that's one. Let's just make it hard to assail what we're doing here. Okay, so you put the castle in the marsh, and that one fell in the marsh. And then the next one, sorry, movie reference. So we put it there. Now we're going to make a moat around what we built. This is things like trademarks, patents, copyright protections. Like, let's make it really hard to assail the core of what we're doing here. And then the next thing is they're in the walls. What do we have? What do we do once the walls have been breached? Well, now we have the might. We have our knights in shining armor. This is your lawyer. This is your accountant. This is your insurance broker. This is any of the advisors on those external things that are requirements of you, but have nothing to do with how you deliver value to the world. As an entrepreneur, if every minute that you're spending on defending yourself or setting up those defenses feels like a waste of time, because it is not revenue generating, nor is it really for your end user value generating, except to the degree that it keeps you in business and so allows you to keep delivering value. But because it doesn't bring in money and because it doesn't provide value, it can seem like a distraction, so we don't want to do it. It seems complicated, so we don't want to deal with it. It seems scary. We can't really evaluate necessarily the advisors we're getting. I don't know if it's good advice or not. I guess I got to shop around. I guess I got to spend more time figuring out which person's giving me the right advice. All of that can really wear you down if you're thinking about it. Now, vis-a-vis the questionnaire that we have, we'll get into those questions next, but this is us picking at, are you aware of these things and are they keeping you up at night? Some people might say, when I just started my business, I have no idea. Larger businesses say, yeah, I spent an enormous amount of money on that stuff so other people can do it and I don't have to think about it. And then there's everybody in between. So I don't want to trigger anybody's anxiety if they're like, oh my God, that's right, I didn't think about trademarking my baby. It's just out there. Anybody can take it. Well, maybe I do want to trigger you with that a little bit. But anyway, let's get into the questions so we can give people a little bit of clarity, a little bit of comfort, and a little bit of direction here. Does that sound good, Brandon? I think that sounds good.
I love it. I'm up for it. We got 5 of them. If you've been here the last 9 episodes, you know the drill, but we're going to keep this tight. We're going to keep it quick. Risk assessment and defense. Question number 1. It's like a game show. Oh, game shows are a little triggering for me right now.
Don't surprise people with a game show.
Question number 1. Do we have a robust risk management strategy? No, Sean, that sounds like something that only corporate America needs. I don't need that. What is this?
It sounds like that. It sounds complicated. Risk management. I got a cousin in risk management. I mean, and then they think about that corporate risk management person like, oh my God, that sounds awful. It does. It does sound awful, except if you're in it and you really like that kind of thing. Compliance can be really fun. That is the geekiest thing that has ever come out of my mouth. But it can be, because it's like a puzzle. You can make it a game. But anyway, I digress. Do you have a strategy? This is the first triggering thing. And most people go, no, I don't. Or they go, yeah, my risk management is avoid potholes. So that's it. And so this is just an opening salvo to them there to say we're going to be digging in risk management. And because we see this look as soon as we ask this question, everybody kind of their eye twitches a little bit and they kind of sink in their chair because they know there are gaps and they've been rolling the dice hoping somebody doesn't steal their thing, break their thing, sue them for something, right? And then they just watch it, see if anybody's stealing their copyrighted language, which is, the least of their worries. But okay, so that's the first question we ask. Do you have a strategy? I didn't ask you what the elements of it are. I didn't ask you what your processes are around it. Just, do you have a strategy? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, which we really don't even get into on this questionnaire. So,
No.
But most people don't, to be fair. Most people are like, what do you mean by risk management strategy? So yes, that's permission to dig a little bit further. But anyway, Question 2, have we taken steps to protect ourselves legally? And then in parentheses, things like contracts, trademarks, copyrights, etc.
Yes. Brandon, you and I both have 100 stories of entrepreneurs. So up market, this is dialed in, button down. They've got it covered. Down market, it is the Wild West. I was in a mastermind where once they found out I was a recovering lawyer, they were like, "Oh, we're all like family here in this mastermind." And it's like, yeah, if that family sues each other over everything constantly and screws each other over, they had this kind of esprit de corps of, let's just sell our services to each other all incestuously and provide service back and forth. And every one of them thought, well, because we're in the same mastermind, it's okay if we don't have contracts. And if we do, just screw each other over, regardless of what the contracts say. There is, with the emergence of AI and other tools out there, people are armchair contracting themselves and missing a lot of important things and providing a lot of risk for themselves. And so, this is do you have something in place, or are you? And then the answer is yes, plenty of things in place. I wrote them all myself. And then you get that twinge, that feeling. I pulled it from here. And I just changed these parts. And this section, I love this one. This section was really boring, so I took it out. Oh my God. That's the part you needed. Really? I didn't know. It's like, that's why I don't pop the hood open and go, well, if this thing's the thing that's rattling, I'll just yank that off, right? Does that work, everybody? Start her up. Let's see how it goes. No, that's not how we do it. So that's what we're getting at there. Hopefully they have a good answer.
Yeah, this one's always interesting because I've had a number of lawyers on my podcast, Harmonious at Lunch now, outside of you, and business attorneys in particular, and they say contracts with customers in particular are the one area that causes the most grief for small business owners, because they think things like an invoice or a receipt would suffice for a contract. And what they say is you need a whole second page of just words and on every invoice you provide to really keep yourself safe. So it doesn't have to be changed for every single client, but putting that effort, time, and money into doing that up front will save you potentially huge headaches on the back end. So these little things add up to,
and it doesn't have to be, and it also doesn't have to be 32 pages.
Right. It
can be very, very simple, very to the point. In fact, plain language, I am a huge fan of plain language contracts, where I just reviewed a contract that somebody gave me the other day. It was, I think, 15 pages when I started, and I got it down to 8 just from taking out superfluous language. It was just punching
Did you take
around.
Out the boring part? I hope you did.
What?
I said, did you take out the boring part?
I did not. I left the boring part in. I just made it 3 sentences instead of 11 because it was trying to over expand and describe something, and it only made it confusing. And if Brandon, you don't know what I'm saying in the contract, and I don't know what you're saying in the contract, and we both sign it. Is it really a contract? There's been no meeting of the minds. So plain language is great, but don't think that you, on your own, know all the things to put in there. Just get some help. Get some help. All right, anyway, go.
Get some help. Yeah, get some mental help. Anyway, question number 3. Do we have the right insurance coverage? This is a specific question.
This is because I went really specific there on that one because the answer is always no. And then the few times that it's yes, then my next follow-up question is, and are you paying too much and is it too expensive? Well, yeah, I have this and this and this. Why are you getting the wax undercoating? That doesn't actually do anything. Why would you need that? All right. So, but it's a specific question because we forget about it. And that until we suddenly are getting sued and somebody says, well, don't worry about it because insurance is covering it, right? And you go, about that. So it's more important. Depending, I can't obviously advise anybody here on what that would be, but that's why you need to talk to some professional and say, do I need errors and omissions for what I'm doing or not? Do I need general liability? What do I need with what I'm doing? Oh, I didn't realize that selling candles had some kind of jeopardy for me and I could lose everything because of the way I set my business up and the way my contracts are and the way my insurance is. Yes, if you are in commerce, you are rolling those dice. So let's make sure you're protected to the degree that you need to be protected.
Yeah, that's one of the first 2 things that I outsourced immediately when I started my last business, accounting and insurance, because I didn't want to know anything about them. And I knew nothing about them. So I talked to professionals and said, I need to be protected in both of these areas. Insurance was a big one because it was a physical manufacturing business. There was risk of life potentially. And I was like, I need to be covered and make sure that just because you have an LLC doesn't mean you can't be sued, first and foremost. Second of all, you need to be covered for those things because you could lose everything if you're not.
Anybody can be sued for it. Anybody can be sued for anything.
Yeah, I'm finding that out, Sean. We should do a whole episode on that. This thing's a disaster that's going on.
No, that's all people need to know is anybody can be sued for anything. Doesn't mean you're going to be found liable, guilty,
and it's
or any of those
no
things.
matter what.
It just means you could be sued for it, any of these things, and you have to be prepared for that. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
All right. Question 4. Do we take action to protect our brand and intellectual property? This is huge, especially you mentioned before, ChatGPT, AI, generative AI. I mean, this is a big problem for a lot of people these days.
It's a huge problem. This is me saying you've got to be proactive to defend the number one thing that you have. So this brings us, and the reason, was that the last question?
No, there's one more question. That was 4.
The reason the reason it's great that it's in RAD and RAD is last is because it brings us right back around to your navigation. Who are we? What do we represent? What is our brand? And if you're not protecting that brand, you could go the way of escalator. Did you know that escalator is not a word for that thing? That movable staircase that goes up? That was a brand.
It's a brand, yeah, this company.
Brand, and that brand got diminished and eroded and is a brand no more because now it became the common lexicon. This is why Xerox started to push back and say, no. You're making copies on a Xerox. You're not making a Xerox. That is not Xeroxing, which is interesting that Google is letting you say, well, just Google it. Because if Google, once it becomes a verb, then anybody can do it. You can Google it with Bing. I don't know, right?
Yeah, but does anyone in their right mind
world
use Bing or Yahoo? I mean, come on, let's be real.
Is Bing even still a thing? So let's not date the show. The point is, Kleenex. Hand me a Kleenex. No, hand me a Kleenex brand sanitary, whatever they call it, right?
It's a
nose wiper, snot collector. So, but also anything tarnishing your brand, attacking your brand, you have to be, or using it, right? If we saw anybody infringing on the thing that we've worked so hard to create, we have to go after them like rabid dogs. We have to send that message. There must be heads on pikes at the gate. That must happen. Because if you don't, then people are chipping away at it. And then it's very hard, if not impossible, to get it back, to reset the boundary where you wanted on their side of the field instead of your side of the field, because you let that erosion happen. So this is me kind of trying to poke and prod to say, wake up here a little bit and make sure. Now, I know big companies police this wildly and with reckless abandon. Well, there's a reason for that. I know we take shots at the Fortune 100 a lot because they do not have all the answers and they are misguided on so many things. But on this, they're right on it, because they wouldn't have gotten that big had they not defended their IP with that kind of fervor.
Yeah, I've seen so many examples of this where it's really hurt small businesses. And again, back to the industry that I was in before. So creative industry, you could put logos on things, and a lot of people in that industry would take logos like Disney property, Mickey Mouse, the castle, whatever, if you're going to go on a family vacation. Another one is sports team logos if you're going to go to a game. And I mean, I've seen companies sued for a lot of money that they are very clearly and obviously breaking the rules, and they have to pay it, and it's put them out of business. Like this stuff on the small business level, we don't tend to think about it. But if someone takes your IP, not so much your branding, but your IP, if someone takes our words here and they go regurgitate it and sell those words, if we're not proactive and we're not looking to defend that person could build a brand around our IP, and we can't defend it at that point. We're screwed.
Nope.
So
absolutely,
this is really, really huge, especially in a day where we all have a brand and IP on social media. So if you're on social media, if you're putting stuff out in the world, think about this, please.
And don't proliferate that. Don't commingle. See, because if you start stealing, because everybody does it, so it happened to me, so I might as well do it, because we all just do that. No. And I've seen that in certain circles.
Yep.
Once you start doing that, you've commingled other people's stuff that you've stolen with your stuff, and now you can't defend your stuff because it's already half pirated anyway. So don't be part of the problem. Be the change you want to see in the world. Don't be part of that problem.
Preach. All right, let's do it. Question 5. Do we take steps to protect our customer data? This one is interesting.
Oh, this is all about, so I wanted to also wake them up to defending yourself also extends to anything that you've collected internally. This can be your customer lists. This can be customer data. This could be, obviously, when it makes the news is when there's been a big HIPAA breach, or a banking institution had records go missing, or social security numbers somehow get out there. But there's other stuff too that you're asking people for. We get it on the micro level of, hey, give me your email and I swear I won't use it for other purposes. Okay, you're saying that. That's great. That's like the lowest level of trust I want from you. And then the highest level is, now I'm giving you some really sensitive stuff and you better not let that get out there. And so this is just trying to gauge, are we thinking about this? Are we building that level of trust too with our customers? We harp on delivering value constantly, delivering on your brand promise constantly. This is one of those implicit brand promises that says, well, we never said we protect your data. What? Like, well, I just said I would sell you a really nice BMW, and I did sell you a really nice BMW. Yeah, but all my financial information is out on the dark web. Yeah, but we're not in that business. We're not in records retention. Do I look like Iron Mountain? We're not in records retention. we just sell BMWs. No, that is part of the brand promise. It's implicit. It's baked in there that any information I give you is going to be protected by you. So we just want to know that you're also thinking that there's an extension here beyond your perimeter. The castle and its knights are there to provide value to the surrounding area, but also that protection should extend to the denizens of your realm. How's that for dragons and castles? And
we brought it full circle there with the castles and the realm.
Great.
This one to me is interesting though, because a lot of people, they tend to overlook this because most of us are using third-party software like Stripe to collect credit card payments, whatever your CRM is, MailChimp to hold emails, and we don't think that we have to worry about it because someone else manages it. I actually had an interesting situation. I was using a software program one time, and this glitch was found out. I don't know by who, but they brought it to that company's attention, where basically if you typed in the URL, so let's just use ours, so whatif.com/customer name, and these were just companies that you could pick out of thin air. Basically, you could find all of that company's data and look into any other company who is using the software, all of their customer data, invoices, addresses, phone numbers, emails. You couldn't find credit card information, thank God, but you have everything else. And you could go either pluck clients from other companies because you had that data, or you could steal that person's information and sell it to the dark web, do whatever you want with it. That's a very real situation where a company who said their brand promise was to protect customer data wasn't. And you should be thinking about this. You should make sure that the platforms you're using are fully secure, because those customers were pissed that happened.
No, people are. So it is a job to be done by your company to protect your client's data. It's not an obvious one, or it's so obvious you don't think about it, but you're outsourcing when you have let's use Stripe as an example, because you brought it up. When you have Stripe processing those payments, you are outsourcing the job of protecting customer data.
Yep.
It is a job that exists. Whether you see that it's there or not, that is one of those processes that your company needs, right? And so, and if you're in a business where you're going to need a chief privacy officer because of the nature of the business that you're in and the information you're collecting, then you need to know that, and you need to have that person in place, and not just say that you have a chief information officer. I'm speaking specifically to no one, but I've worked with a company where they just kind of fudge that. I'm like, who's this person who's the chief information security officer? His resume is really impressive. It's like, oh, I knew him. Like, I met him at a conference 20 years ago. He agreed I could use his name. Oh God. We're rolling the dice here, people. Come on. Double sixes. I don't know. Is that a good roll? I don't
get no idea. Either way,
I don't gamble.
I think we displayed the importance of a marsh, a moat, and might today. And I don't know if there's monsters at the gate. You have at least 5 questions to ask to figure out where they're coming from and if they're really going to get you.
Beautiful. And that's it. Obviously, we ask a lot more questions after that, but those are the ones that sort of put a crack into the conversation so we can sort of dig in further. It's a beautiful thing. It is just one of the 10 disciplines that we ask questions around. Take this diagnostic. It is free. It only takes 5 minutes. It gives you incredible clarity on what the hidden elements that might be holding your business back or about to bite it in the ass. Does your business have an ass? If so, it's exposed and it might get bit. I don't know what we're talking about anymore. Take the bad. Brandon, are we done?
I got nothing else to add. See ya.